How and how much money have I lost over the last 9 years of beekeeping? And I just want to mention they cut the hay yesterday next to me. So my bees are having to work a little harder. There's goldenrod everywhere, different locations. So they don't have a concentration of nectar in one place. They have to fly around to find it. So I'm keeping an eye on robbing. This right here is my clover. And I'll show you something else. Okay, this year I made sure all the colonies in one area were equal size, so I didn't have to do any of this stupid stuff. See, this right here is a screen entrance. It has a hole on one side and they have to walk through to get to the hole on the other side of it. And it's a big hassle. It takes them a while to learn. You see them going back and forth trying to figure out how to get into their hive. I don't deal with that anymore. I'm probably going to throw them away. It may seem like hard work to you to load a hive up on the truck and move it to a different location, but for me, with the equipment I have, it's just so much easier. I checked my bees at the other location, my smaller colonies, and I didn't see any robbing going on there. You know, with that field being cut yesterday, I'm kind of worried is there going to be robbing going on over the next few days until we get some rain. It's supposed to rain this weekend, tomorrow, and hopefully some of that clover will pop up. But how do you know if robbing's going on? I'll show you. Open up a building or room where you store your bee stuff. If you see bees drifting around that room, robbing's an issue. I always thought it's kind of funny. Bees waste so much time flying around looking for something to rob when they could be out there going from one flower to the other, collecting nectar and taking it back to the hive. So I've got commercial bees in my area. Along with my large colonies, there's a lot of robbing going on, but I don't have any colonies being robbed out right now because they're all strong in my area. And the smaller colonies in our different areas, there's not a lot of bees. So also I want to mention, I have a lot of stuff, and I'm going to show you something here about how much money I've lost over the years. And honestly, I have not bought a honey extractor. I figured the bees would come first and see if I could be successful having large colonies, large number of large colonies, and then I would buy the extractor. I wasn't going to waste my money in buying a little teeny extractor that did 4 frames at a time. No, I need something that's going to do 40 or so frames at a time when I have sufficient numbers of colonies. So yeah, this right here, these are all deeps here with, I just finished a bunch of frames of foundation. So every one of these deeps in here has foundation on it. So I'm ready for next year. And these frames here, I'm going to run wires across these and put in a strip of wood and wax, and I'm going to stick them in between frames that are filled out for next year. Try to save some money. But I've got, you know, last year I made a lot of stuff and it was really expensive, but with that money the government was giving us, I used all that money and I was able to write it off as an expense. I didn't have to pay taxes on it. So I'll show you what the money I've lost over the years. Okay, these are of 9 years of beekeeping. These are my notes that I've made in notebooks. They could be a little rough sometimes to figure out what's going on. And then you do right here some of the receipts. And going on what is here in my memory and rounding things up to the nearest 100 or down to the nearest 100. This is the last 9 years for me. I bought my first colony in 2013, got them through winter just to see if I could keep bees alive. And I thought, okay, great. It was fun, I enjoyed it. I've always wanted to have honeybees. I was exposed to honeybees when I was a kid. And it's always been something I wanted to do. So I went ahead and I bought 4 more colonies that spring. And then in July I doubled, ended up having 13 colonies. I had a couple swarms. I split colonies and still had swarms. And I did the Kirk Webster's no treatment method. And I was okay. I didn't have any issues in 2017. Winter of 2017, in January and February, March, I had huge losses. So I thought, okay, I want to try Russian bees. So I was going to buy some Russian queens from Foley's Russian Bees, but first I had to buy package. I only had a few colonies left with the queens I had from existing years of beekeeping, and I didn't want to disturb them. So I bought some new packages, and they were about average price, between 2 pound and 3 pound packages. I bought 14 of them, so about $1,400. And then I went ahead, put them in hives, because I had hives left over because of the colonies I lost, and I noticed they were full of Varroa mites. And when I opened up those packages, see that garage there? On the south side of my garage is where I did the hives and packages. And a lot of the bees did cleansing flights. Instead of going into the hive, they came out of the hive and did cleansing flights and ended up on the roof of my garage and died. So I was kind of pissed off with that. And during the summer, I noticed a lot of these queens from these packages died. They didn't make it through summer. And then a couple days, actually the packages are spring, and I waited for these colonies to grow, and then I split them for foliage Russian bees, queens. I did over 40 at two separate orders. The first order was $700, and then the second order, majority of those queens died, and I made a complaint to PayPal, and PayPal wouldn't reimburse my money, so I refused to pay for it, and it ruined my credit, but I don't give a shit. I'm not paying for something that was damaged during shipping. What happens is, Jason Foley put all the queens in a cage with no workers, and then he packs the box full of loose workers with a sponge for the workers to feed the queens. So there's only 2 screens on this box, and it's shipped UPS next day. During the summer, when temperatures in the 90s, they get hot, and the bees want to get out of that package, and they block the screens, and they generate so much heat that it killed the queens in those cages. And the bees are so worried about getting out of the box, I don't think they actually fed the queens. So only a couple of those on the second order survived, and then that made up for the losses I had in the first order. So basically, the second order was a complete waste of money, so I didn't pay for it. So basically, I ended up with 20 colonies going into winter. And after winter, I checked my notes here, I had only 8 Russian colonies after winter. And what I did was, I had some existing colonies. If I had a queen from a certain colony that was Russian, I put RQ next to that, and I knew that was a Russian queen. If she was not a Russian queen, it was just Q. Or if I thought she looked like an Italian queen, I'd put IQ. But anyway, I had 8 Russian colonies after winter. This is going into 2018. Not very successful. So I continued to make my own queens, 2018. And in 2019, I tried Formic Pro formic acid for 1 package, 1 container. They came in buckets at the time. Bucket of 25 I was successful. Actually, 2018 did 25 treatments. Actually, I had 22 colonies, and I was successful. So I thought, okay, I'll do it again the following year. And the following year had 72 colonies, so I had to buy 3 of those buckets of 25. It cost me $400. I bought it from Better Bee, and it did not kill the Varroa mites. My videos are on YouTube on my channel. If you guys took the time to go back through and look at all my videos, I've been documenting everything that's happened to me for the last 5 years. It's very important. I'm not making up any of this shit. I'm being honest with you. So basically, I did the treatment, and I did the treatment in September, and I thought, okay, I'm fine. And I started noticing at the end of October, my bees were still dying. And I said, what the hell's going on? So I checked a colony, and yes, sure enough, they had Varroa mites. So I quickly bought, I'll show you what I bought. Oh, before I go over to the next location, I know you guys are disappointed if I don't open the hive, but I'll at least let you look at the outside of the hive here, see the bees going in and out. And I look to see, are they bringing in pollen? If they're bringing in pollen, it's a good chance they're probably bringing in nectar. See, there's a bee with pollen right there. Well, nectar you can't see because it's in their tummy, but you can see the pollen. So even with that hayfield cut, they're doing all right. There was just a bunch of them there. There's one there. I was at my other bees this morning, and they were bringing in a lot of pollen too. So let me pause this. Okay, at another location, again, more bees. And I won't stand in front of the hives, but It's kind of cool, the different colors of pollen they're bringing in. But they are very busy and they're being successful bringing stuff in. So let me go back to the back of the hive here. So anyway, what I was saying is proformic acid failed to kill varroa mites the second time I used it. So in November 2019, I quickly bought some acidic acid in one of these Varroa vaporizers and treated all my hives. It killed the varroa mites, but they'd already been subjected to the viruses from the varroa mites, so they had a hard time getting through the winter of 2019-2020. So now that I've figured out how to kill varroa mites, and I want to make a comment. There's a pretty face on YouTube, Honeybee Homestead. You know, she just put a video on, hope this works, treating varroa mites. She's got some new product, well, whatever. I mean, every time you try something new, there's a chance it's not going to work because nobody's honest in this country. It's all about making money. I'll get to that next. This acylic acid works. It's a lot of work. As soon as it cools down and I put in my bottom boards and I remove all these extra honey supers, make the hive a little smaller, I'm going to start treating for varroa mites. But I can't do it now. That's a bottom screen and the hive has got several supers on it. So you close up the hive, it's cold, the bees aren't bearding on the front of the hive, they're in the hive. You do it early in the morning when they're all in the hive, plug up the hive, put that oxalic acid vaporizer in there. I'm doing 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off with a level cup. So it works. I haven't had any issues with varroa mites since then. It doesn't kill any of my honeybees. It doesn't kill my queens. The proformic acid kills 10% of my queens every time I used it. And again, the second time I used proformic acid, it did not kill any varroa mites. So again, we got a pretty face on YouTube. Honeybee Homestead. Apparently she has some varroa mites in her colonies. It's causing problems, and she's going to treat for varroa mites. Here it is, August. You know, guess what? You get rid of the varroa mites, you're going to get more of them before winter. If you have an issue with varroa mites in the middle of summer, you're doing something wrong. The varroa mites that you get during the summer are coming from the commercial bees. They go out to the almonds. Their bees don't winter, so their queens are constantly laying. That's the source for the varroa mites. They're in the hive all year round. They go out to the almonds of California. They pass varroa mites from one colony to the next. They never get rid of them. And then their old bees, they sell them in packages to backyard beekeepers with their old queens. And in probably over 90% of those colonies die. The backyard beekeepers will go ahead and do it again the following year. But anyway, if we were to quarantine our bees, stop transporting them across state lines, keep them in one location, don't do any pollinating services for the corporate farms because the corporations are controlling our government. It's about time we stop letting the corporations control our government and take back this country from the rich. But no, you commercial beekeepers love the money, and you guys love the money when you sell packages. When I bought those packages in 2017 from that beekeeper, I asked him, how do you make up for your losses? He said, oh, by selling packages to people. Okay, they're making money selling you the old sick bees that just got done doing all this pollinating during the month of February, March. After the almonds, they go other places. But anyway, they're subjected to a monoculture full of toxic chemicals, and those bees aren't healthy. And those beekeepers love the money, and they love the fact that the toxic chemicals are causing your bees to die every year. That's the hardest thing on my bees is the toxic chemicals crop farmers keep spraying around constantly every summer, off and on throughout the summer. My bees have to put up with it. I noticed in May, because all of a sudden it warmed up and all the farmers in my area were out at the same time, I noticed I had a lot of bees out on the ground doing this for about 2 weeks after the farmers were done planting. Okay, it's a neonics. And you guys don't seem to understand that. It's killing your bees. The varroa mites, you can get rid of your varroa mites. I've got 2 of these. It takes a lot of work. 3 times every 5th day, 2 times every 7th day, and then 1 more time before winter. So yeah, it takes a long time to get rid of the varroa mites, but it works. I do not treat in the spring. Better Bee told me I should treat in the spring, and they told me I should rotate my mate treatments. You know, I said, why would you need to treat in the spring if you got rid of the varroa mites going into winter? Okay, you don't have any varroa mites. The varroa mites you get are coming from those commercial bees that brought back into your area. All these big beekeepers all over the United States, they bring your bees back. And guess what? If you're a backyard beekeeper or a sideliner and you don't transport your bees out of the state or from any other location where there's pollinating during the winter, you're going to get your Varroa mites from those bees during the summer. And guess what? My bees are getting Varroa mites during the summer, and they're building up in my hive. But I'm not going to treat them until the end of summer, until I know after the treatment they're not going to get any more. It's cold out. The Varroa mites can't survive in winter. They survive in the hive. If you get rid of the Varroa mites going into winter, that spring when your queen starts laying, you're not going to have any issues. You shouldn't have any issues at the beginning of summer. You're going to have issues at the end of summer, but you shouldn't have any issues beginning of summer, unless something's wrong with your beekeeping methods, your practices. So anyway, back to in 2019, I had to run around with Better Bee not giving me their winter patties on time. They didn't notify me, kind of rude. So I went ahead and went to Man Lake, and I bought some of Man Lake's Ultra Bee. And after my bees were started on this winter global patties from Better Bee, I put the Man Lake Ultra Bee in, and they would not continue doing brood. They stopped. So I still had the Ultra Bee left over because the bees didn't use it in 2021. So I thought, okay, next year I'm going to try Dedant. I was still pissed off with Better Bee. I didn't want to buy anything from Better Bee. So I spent money buying this Dedant AP23, and I put it in my hives in January. It's this last winter here. It's 2022. None of my colonies would start. I had 150 some colonies, and none of them would start. And the smaller the colony, the more likely they were going to die out before spring. They didn't start until it warmed up, and we had a late warm up this year. Didn't warm up until the beginning of May, and I lost a third of my colonies. I'm blaming on the fact that I couldn't get them started. I don't care if they took a lot of honey. I never ran out of honey. I could have fed them syrup somehow, but the fact that they didn't start, and the bees only live 5-6 months. It depends on where you go online. But with the toxic chemicals in the hive, I bet they only live 4 months during winter. If they die before they restart, you lost the colony. It's not the Varroa mites, okay? It's not the viruses that the Varroa mites are giving your bees. It's the toxic chemicals they're bringing in. They're bringing in toxic chemicals right now. GMO. GMO means the plants can handle the chemicals the farmers spray on them. It's in the plant. It's in our food. It's causing us to get cancer. It's in what the bees bring in. It's in the pollen. It's in the nectar. It gets in the wax. It makes your hives toxic, okay? So basically, how much money have I lost over 9 years beekeeping? $3,200. How much money have I made the last 9 years? I haven't sold any honey. I haven't made a penny. Because I've always been saving my honey for the following year, because I knew I was going to make more colonies, and I was going to put that honey into the new colonies. And I have a lot of honey right now, and I'm going to continue. I have my electrical contracting business. It's been really slow the last few years. Breakers have been hard to find. Copper wire is really expensive. I'm not making a lot of money doing that either. So, 99% of the problems that we have right now, if you were to do the research, okay, take a piece of paper, write down the problem. Pick any problem. Homelessness. Do your research. What causes it? 99% of the problems going on in the world are caused by the rich. The last few years have been really fucked up. Excuse my French, but they've been really fucked up because the rich people have been fucking us, okay? Who gets the money when there's an issue going on? Who gets the money first? The rich people. And then they'll hand out a little bit to the poor people to keep them content. Okay? The rich people are fucking us. And how are they fucking us? Well, I used to build my own hive, supers, deeps, mediums and frames, but the price of lumber doubled the last couple of years. It got ridiculous. But I'm hoping the housing market is crashing. What you do is you go to your local cement contracting company where they make cement. See how many cement trucks are parked, okay? This year, I've noticed locally that more than half of their cement trucks are constantly parked. So whenever anything is built, first thing they use is concrete. Nobody's doing anything in this country anymore, so the price of lumber should come down, because what is causing our problems is greed. Okay, when they realize they can't sell anything at all, they'll lower the price, but they'll keep the prices high thinking they're going to sell a lot and make a lot of money. But when they realize they're not going to make any money at all, then they'll lower the price, okay? So basically, how much money and how have I lost my money? I told you right here, okay? But I have 142 colonies right now. I have 177 hives. And bees are a hot commodity right now. So are hives. If I wanted to sell everything I have, I'm sure that I could cover my losses here with 177, 180, however many hives I have. I'm sure I could make a few $1,000s off that. But I'm still young enough that I can handle doing this. I'm gonna try to see how much further I can go, how many more I can get, just to see what I can do, and to prove all you guys don't know what you're doing. You guys are being brainwashed by the system, the deep state. You guys are being screwed over, they're taking your money, taking you to the cleaners, however you want to say it. I don't buy queens anymore after foliage Russian bees, and I'm not buying syrup this fall. I'm not buying sugar to make the syrup this fall because I have so much honey. You can do this cheap if you look into it, and they really don't need a pollen substitute, considering that this year I couldn't get them to use the pollen substitute, and they started on their own when there was stuff available. You really don't need anything. You know, the wax foundation, yeah, get some wax foundation. When you get enough of that, then you can build the frames with foundationless frames and put in the hives and build everything yourself, you know. But it's still expensive, price of lumber, okay? Thank you.